Be a good little fella now and open the door.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
So, today I'm not only talking about one, not two, but 8 different Christmas specials for today's marathon Return of the Classics. And hopefully this will be the last of the shorts before we begin reviewing the classic films that most of us had to at least know and love. So first let's go to these ones. We have Santa vs. the Snowman, what I could consider to be an underrated animated feature from Universal, but also O Entertainment. So, today we're not only reviewing 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 8 different holiday specials for today's marathon of Return of the Classics before we begin reviewing the movies that are classic and we know and love. Today we're talking about Santa vs. the Snowman first. This is pretty much a very underrated holiday special that only had like a single VHS and a single DVD release. None of this 3D or Blu-ray 3D releases, not even a televised version. But essentially the story is this. A lonely snowman who has no voice basically wants to essentially take over the job of Santa Claus. And starts this huge all-out war with Santa, played by Jonathan Winters. And the film is entirely narrated by that guy from, like, the 20th century who's well known for doing all those In a World trailers. Because, why not? This is presented by O Entertainment, the same people that brought The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius to the big screen, and Nickelodeon. It's really smart, it's really hilarious, and it was a joy to at least have remembered seeing this as a kid in the IMAX. And it's real sad because the home video 3D really is terrible, not the best in any sense. I mean, it would be cool to see this re-released in the IMAX if IMAX wasn't so popular of a format for movies today, because we've had a lot of movies released in IMAX. I mean, we obviously had the Marvel movies like Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America the Winter Soldier, but also we had like Tron Legacy and The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. I mean, IMAX has pretty much a popular format that this is getting passed on for an every year renewal for the big screens. If I ever could travel back in time, or if I was like the owner of an IMAX theater, I would want to bring this back for IMAX 3D experience. Or at least in the case of short films, bring it as a real 3D event for standard theaters, but it's more preferred to see in IMAX. Next we have a special that actually came on TV once, that never saw the light of day again. This being Christopher and Holly, or at least known on IMDb as The Bears Who Saved Christmas. Essentially, there's another star-studded cast and crew. There's obviously Christopher and Holly, one of them voiced by Charles Adler, a compass played by Jonathan Winters, and from what I could tell, Henry Gibson's in this. So far we have the Illinois Nazi guy, we have Mr. Pike from It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and Santa from Santa vs. the Snowman, and we got Charles Adler, known for Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons and Mr. Bighead from Marco's Modern Life. Christopher and Holly, I'm first time viewing this, and it's pretty much good. It may not be a classic, but at least it's good. And I believe you could actually find this online. It ain't owned by anyone. Technically, it would be qualified as a public domain short, since, you know, nobody owns it. And it hasn't seen the light of day ever, but again, who knows? Essentially, this is the story. Tom and Susie are stranded in a deserted cabin on their way to their grandmother's place. Christopher and Holly, on the night of Christmas Eve, decide to go out and give the family a Christmas tree. For the family to at least have some high hopes. and it's pretty much a decent special. A lot of great memories. Well, actually, I haven't seen this one ever young. The next one has great memories. But if you ever get a chance, try to find this online. It's pretty much decent, but I'm pretty sure most of you would probably find a little bit of flaw with this story. I just can't figure out what it is since, this is my first time viewing this. Next we have one of my all-time favorite specials, and the one we have to have remembered seeing when we were young, that being A Charlie Brown Christmas. There's just something simple about this special, and yet it's just so cool and so memorable and non-forgettable that this really stands out. Charlie Brown feels as if Christmas has been a little bit too consumerized. I really don't know if that's the right term or not. But essentially, he winds up being the director of putting on a play. You think that's going to be easy for him, right? Actually, no. There's many things he still faces. He still winds up having trouble trying to find the spirit of Christmas. The animation is pretty much simple. The story is amazing. And an interesting fact for you, this special never aired. Well, actually, to be more precise, it almost never aired. CBS, when first taking a look at this, when the year was supposed to come on, thought of the special as a little bit too much. Like, it's too simple, like the child actors aren't good, and they couldn't take the religious tones into the special. However, CBS was proven wrong, and over the years, A Charlie Brown Christmas has become one of the biggest phenomena, as one of the biggest specials of the Peanuts franchise, and it comes on every year on TV. I think mainly ABC. I have so much memories with this. I remember seeing this as a kid on video and seeing it on ABC as a kid, whenever it came on every December. It was simple, it was memorable, had a star-studded cast that I would remember a lot as a kid. What else can I say? Charlie Brown Christmas is one of my all-time favorites. And lastly, some of you probably may not... Well, actually, some of you probably may forget this special. But to be honest with you, who could blame you? It's been like years probably since you've seen this as a kid. Probably must have been something that your parents must have pulled out for you just to occupy your time, or the fact that when you were a kid they would always take you to church or something like that, and someone in there. Where was I? Oh yeah, right. Or otherwise they would have had this on at church, and you would just be so entertained that it was like talking foods or whatever. That special being the VeggieTales special, The Toy That Saved Christmas. Now, when I was a young kid, I was into VeggieTales. I mean, of course, I was into Garfield back then when I was a young kid, but also I was into a lot of the shows on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. But, of course, The Toy That Saved Christmas from VeggieTales had been one of my few franchises that I liked when I was young, but that opinion has changed with time. I mean, as a teen, I thought it was okay, but for one, it's real hard to collect, and besides the fact, I'm starting to get real tired of seeing these. I mean, if I ever do have a kid, I would definitely recommend, like, showing this thing to a kid. Anyways, back to the subject at hand. The plot for The Toy That Saved Christmas goes as this. Mr. Nezzer winds up creating an ad for their small little village called Dinkletown, where he promotes this doll called Buzzsaw Louie. And yes, that is actually a true name, but his buzzsaw is actually hidden in his hand. And he sort of creates this mixed message for the toy, saying that Christmas is about presents, it's about getting, but it's more about giving. And of course, Junior and Bob and Larry go into the village, and Actually, they don't. I believe they don't have like names on. They don't name the characters, but except for Mr. Nezer and Buzzsaw Louie, I forget because it's been a long time since I've seen this. But it's what happens is that Bob, Larry, and Junior wind up coming across one of the dolls that somehow winds up coming like Pinocchio, like he's alive, and ultimately they decide they want to ask someone what the true meaning of Christmas is about. And so what happens is that they go to someone that knows a lot about it. That would be the post office man that delivers to the village and tells them the true meaning of Christmas. And of course the group decides to send the message over to the town and all that. But then all of a sudden Mr. Nezer wants to essentially send them over to a part of the town that is shut down because the bridge had been completely damaged. There's so much in this special that I don't know whether to give away the rest of it or not. Nah, I might as well, because probably most of you probably not going to watch this. Essentially, the family winds up coming up, and ultimately it's too late because Mr. Nezer accidentally pushed the button when he received the present from the parents. As they go screaming down the hill, but luckily their lives are saved as Mr. Nezer nearly falls down to his death and gets saved by his penguin assistants and Buzzsaw Louie, as he knows the true meaning of Christmas now. At least Mr. Nezer does. It's decent, it's funny. I don't know, I remembered it being huge and big on a grand scale, but that was like many years ago. But definitely if you have younger kids, or at least have nieces or nephews or cousins that would come over to your house for the holiday season, might I recommend that. Next for our reviews, we've got A Woodland Critters Christmas from South Park. There's so much to talk about South Park. I mean, they've mainly had a lot of specials, especially with Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh, but I'm mainly going to talk about Woodland Critters Christmas, because that one happens to be the more memorable of the bunch. Let me give a moment of thought here for a moment. So, basically Stan comes across a bunch of animals, but they're not just regular animals, they're the woodland critters. And they ask Stan to build them a manger for the birth of their Lord. There's so much in this special, and there's so many plot twists and turns. Like, there's moments where the narrator's saying something that Stan isn't really saying, and no matter how many times he tries to ignore it, he can never escape that thought. But there's too much in this special to give away. There's too many plot twists and turns and everything that it'll just ruin the special if you haven't seen it. So, might I recommend, try to look up the episode up on, like, Hulu or the new South Park Studios website. Let's look up South Park Woodland Critters Christmas on Google. I'm pretty sure you'll find some way of viewing it for free. At least do the US citizens. Sorry, UK, you can't get the episodes for free. Next, I'm going to talk about, next special that I actually have on my desktop is a special that I really haven't seen in years, and I mean years. 14 minutes, okay. I swear I'm going to have to cut this down. So essentially, the story is this. Eddie is really sick of his parents getting him clothes for Christmas. And essentially he tries to go out and, of course, go and live with another family so that he can steal their presents. And of course in that time, Eddie learns the true meaning of Christmas. It's a real funny special with a lot of funny moments that really brought me back to my childhood when I first saw the special in 2004. Ed and Eddie back then was like something that I treasured the most. Sure, I might have treasured VeggieTales when I was young, and might have treasured a lot of other things. For example, like Garfield and the little bear that he has, Pookie. But here's the thing. Ed, Edd and Eddy was one of my all-time favorite shows on Cartoon Network, and it's something that I cannot forget. It brought me on, it really had a lot of funny humor, and it really is essentially one of the best specials to view around the holiday season. And I hadn't seen the special within 6 or 5 years. I forget how long it's been since I've actually seen the episode, but ever since the show ended, it's really sad, but definitely it ended on a great note. So, essentially, Ed, Edd and Eddy is one of the best shows, and Jingle Jingle Jangle, which is the name of the special, I highly recommend if you've seen Ed, Edd and Eddy. And with that, we come to the next special, one being based upon the British show Mr. Bean, featuring Rowan Atkinson. And of course the episode, Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean. This episode actually can be viewed for free up on YouTube on the official Mr. Bean YouTube page. I don't know whether it's available for UK or not, but might I recommend doing so. So, there's so much in this special that's memorable, and of course I remember a lot of Mr. Bean being a middle and high schooler. Essentially, I had a friend named Rowan who, essentially, his last name, actually, his first name was Rowan, and of course the actor who played Mr. Bean, Rowan, I actually called him the American Mr. Bean. But that's gone and done. But here's what I can say about this special. Essentially, Mr. Bean is out on a Christmas shopping spree in the first half, while the other half focuses on his home on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. On the night of Christmas Eve, he goes around town, going to a department store where he's buying Christmas lights and ornaments that can bounce off the ground and not, break so easily. Like I said, Mr. Bean is so full of hilarious moments. I mean, there's obviously one part where he finds the Christmas lights, trying to find a plug, and the next thing you know, he just plugs the department store's lights, like the lights from outside, and plugs them in. Or even better, one of the funniest moments is when Mr. Bean is in the department store. He's getting his his bouncy ornament and his lights rung up at the register when he finds a little nativity set, and he decides to play with it like a G.I. Joe set. It's hilarious, but also interesting at the same time. It's hard to talk about Mr. Bean unless you've actually seen it. I mean, like I said, the episode's up for free on YouTube if you want to go see it. But the way he plays with the nativity scene like a G.I. Joe playset, I just kept laughing at every moment. And of course, there's one part where he cheats his way to getting a turkey, and there's one part where he's messing around with a a little band outside while he's the conductor with the pail of cash in his pail winds up taking it to his car, and he's just and Mr. Bean's literally conducting the band. Or even one part where he's he has no Christmas tree to bring into his house, so he decides to literally cut the one down. That ends the first half, and then of course there's a gift about getting one for his girlfriend, which I won't dare give away in this. But again, it contains a lot of hilarious moments, including one part where his girlfriend comes in, and he's trying to cook the turkey, but his watch accidentally gets inside the turkey, and one of the funniest lines makes it more hilarious, especially since he's got, one of the lines, of course, Mr. Bean's girlfriend is inside the house, and essentially he's got the turkey on. He's trying to get it out of his head, and next thing you know, his girlfriend's like, "You got the turkey on?" And they're just busted out laughing. It's one of the most hilarious lines. It's a funny... Mr. Bean may not be to some people may not be the funniest, but at least you could agree Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean is a hilarious episode, and of course, I could see myself maybe viewing it every year or once in a while, or so on and so forth. Last and finally, in our 8th episode, I'm surprised my voice could even last this long, hopefully I ain't gonna edit this, is The Amazing World of Gumball with the episode Christmas. Yeah, you thought it was going to be The Christmas, right? Actually, no, it's called Christmas. Again, Cartoon Network has been getting a little bit better with their shows. Steven Universe is cool. Gumball's decent. Actually, I got into Gumball because one of my friends actually said, like, you know, I'm into Gumball. It's actually a pretty funny show with a lot of memorable characters and hilarious moments. But also, I've been getting into regular show because, again, it's hilarious. But here's an interesting fact for you. In the episode Christmas from The Amazing World of Gumball, the family accidentally runs over Santa, which they think is an old man, or at least they think it's Santa Claus, and basically they try to jog his memory back. They try many different steps, like bringing him like a plate of milk and cookies and asking him what his catchphrase is, or bringing him to a department mall and acting like a Santa Claus, but they look like he's like a dirty homeless bum. But unfortunately, there's like one part where the father winds up finding a sled with a reindeer on it, and he basically goes nuts and all over the place as essentially Gumball gets onto the sleigh and, of course, saves Christmas and gets Santa's memory back. Which, of course, ends the special there. Whew! I don't know how long it can last with that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and tomorrow we'll dive into the movies that we all know and love, and hopefully you might find yourselves getting into by surprising amounts every year. That said, I'm the Ferbguy, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for Return to the Classics, the movies.